and welcome to the How to Spark Success show. I'm your host Liz Hamlet and I'm a success coach and business mentor, and I'm also founder of Spark Succeed. And this is the podcast where I have conversations with smart and savvy business owners and people doing amazing stuff all around the globe. So today I've got a real treat for you with the guest, and some of you, if you followed our other podcast, might know him as a familiar face. So my guest today is a public speaking and communication trainer. He's done a TEDx talk and he will tell you all about that. And he's also founder of Finding Excellence. Last but not least, he is my podcast co-host for the Lockdown and Then What podcast. So it's great to have him in the guest seat and to be asking him some questions rather than him being in the host. So I'd love you to welcome Jose Ucar to the show. Hi Jose, how are you?
Woo! I can hear the people clapping and everything. Thank you so much, Liz, for having me after I've been begging for this opportunity since we met, I think. I'm so grateful. It is a pleasure to be here, Liz. Where would you like me to start? Because by the way, speaking, seeing myself on the microphone, it reminds me of that time when Luis called me Antonio Banderas.
Oh yeah, everyone should listen to that because it's just not got over the fact that someone thought he was Antonio Banderas. I think it was more your voice.
I think it's my regular voice anyway. That's, thanks. Thank you, Luis.
Well, it's great to have you here and also to put you in the spotlight rather than being my co-host. For those of you and the audience that don't know about you, do you want to tell us a bit about what you do now, perhaps a bit about, how you got to be what you're doing, where you are today?
Liz, how long have we got for this answer?
I'll cut you off if we drag on.
You'll cut me off. Okay. Because what I'm doing at the moment, I'm going to be very open about this. When I wake up in the morning, I don't know what my day is going to be like. And sometimes I don't really know what I'm doing. And in that sort of uncertainty, I create my days. This is very open and very big picture, and I'm not saying anything really. I guess, when people ask me who I am, I like to say that I'm a very regular guy. I'm the regular guy with the accent that was born in Venezuela and that has never limited himself. I'm speaking in third person as if I was sharing somebody else's story, I guess. I'm this regular guy with big aspirations for not just for myself anymore, but for the people around me, building a community, having an impact. And when I say an impact, it doesn't mean that I'm going to become Tesla, or maybe I'm not going to be Simon Sinek, or maybe I will. The thing is, I'm very interested in creating an impact around the people that surrounds me. Okay. So in the community I'm building, because I believe if I have an impact, for instance, in your life today, Liz, or in the people listening to this podcast, I leave them a little bit better. That's my job done, because then that's that compound effect I like to speak about. Then that person will go and impact other lives and other lives and other lives. And then that's, that ripple effect when you throw that little, the pebble in the pond.
Yeah. And you've got a marketing background as well, which you sort of bring into sort of how you communicate your messages and that impact piece. So do you want to talk us about, your earlier career life?
My earlier career life, it all started because I wanted to be international. And I remember Liz being 5 years old, okay? And setting up my first business, selling pens and rubbers at school, which by the way got shut down. That was my first business attempt by the teacher. She said, "You're not allowed to do this. You're only 5. Okay, fine." And throughout that period, I kept on speaking to my mom and saying, "Look, Mom, I really would like to become international. I want to travel. I want to do, one of these exchange students' experiences. I would like to live in America. I would like to learn a new language." And for some reason, I always wanted to learn English, even though I haven't mastered it. In the same way I haven't mastered my Spanish, I always wanted to travel. So I went to university and I graduated as a specialist in customs and international business. That helped me to make the jump to Europe from Venezuela back in 2006. and start in business, in international businesses. And I got the opportunity to begin supporting different companies in Spain to export and travel and, sell their products worldwide. So I got involved in distribution networks and, of course, marketing. Then I came to the UK, which is another story on its own. And I started in sales. Well, I started wrapping boxes, putting products in boxes. And then eventually I moved up and I ended up as a European marketing manager for a big Japanese corporation. So that's kind of, my last bit in the corporate world before, again, I made another jump into the entrepreneurial environment where I am today.
And the other thing I'm sort of interested about, because I know it'd always been your dream to do a TEDx talk, and I'm sure that won't be the only one. But how did that come about for people that might be interested in, doing a TEDx themselves?
Yes, ideally, I would love to say that, Liz, they came to me because I'm exceptional at what I do. And so they found me, they looked me up and they said, this is the guy we want. That wasn't the case. I looked for it. I wanted, since I like challenges, and I could have done it in Spanish, but then I thought, no, I want to see myself delivering it in English. So I started applying all over the UK. I even applied in Sweden, Germany, you name it, in places that would allow me to do it in English until finally, and it's actually in the back, they gave me the opportunity and I presented all the different videos I had done and everything else and presented my script. They liked it and off I went.
Brilliant. And what was it, just for the audience, what was the subject you were speaking about? Just a bit of background on that.
Yes, the theme of the TEDx was orchestrating the future. And I decided to speak about connecting with yourself in order to connect the world, which is something that in a way it's been my strong point. I would say my strength is just to connect with people. And that's one of the things I've always done. So if you ask me about business, I wouldn't go into the details of the numbers and everything else. There are great people at that. But what I've always done is connect, interact in a certain way that has enabled me to move up and to continue doing things. And I'm sure the TEDx itself, it was down not just the topic, but the interactions I had with them. That in a way they decided, you know what, just like you today, Liz. Jose, I like you. Let me just give you a chance. And here I am.
Fantastic. And I want to start asking you some of the questions that I ask all my podcast guests. But what I love about the fact that I've got so diverse in my guests is their answers are always different. There are often some themes, but the success journey for everyone is very different, and actually what success means is very different for everyone. So for you, what do you think's been the biggest factor in your success?
I think I've already mentioned that is being able to connect with people, being humble, being respectful. And as I'm saying this, it connects me with my granddad, which was a great influence in my life. And I would say my success as a human being, not as a business owner or anything else, as a human being. And that was, I will always remember, I get a bit emotional, so bear with me. I will always remember that he used to tell me, read, be well educated, most importantly, well spoken, be respectful to other people. That's the key. He didn't even say to me, go and connect, interact, just respect people, treat them with respect. And that is the biggest thing I've taken with me. And every time I apply that, it's not to say that I'm perfect. And sometimes, I am Jose, I'm human. But, that's been a big thing, respecting people, being eager to connect. That's always been for me a great success element. When I meet somebody new, I can't hide it. It's just that sometimes I want to stop myself because I get so excited about meeting that person and finding out about them. And then that connection gets created. And when that connection happens, there is a good impression and there is trust. And there is a certain level of influence as well. Mutual influence in which we kind of support each other. And that's how I met my boss in the UK, who became not just my boss, he became my mentor and he became one of my best friends.
Fantastic. And I know that's, when we connected, I met you at an event where you were speaking and we sort of set up a one-to-one, and we started sort of throwing around ideas, and that's how the other podcast, the Lockdown and Then What podcast, came into fruition. In that, you know, you're very similar to me, so you're very interested in, you know, other people's stories and their experiences, and what they can bring to potential collaborations and, you know, new projects. And, you know, we're constantly talking when we're meeting people and, you know, thinking about future guests for our other podcast, about people that are doing things in a different way, or people whose journey, you know, maybe starting off with nothing, or, you know, had bumps in the road and been disruptive in the market, and, you know, having success in a different way, and sort of have identified an opportunity. So do you think that sort of interest has really helped you and meant that, you know, that was an obvious choice, the communication and the sort of connectivity?
Thank you for asking me that question. And you're going to get me reflecting a lot here. I remember that, you know, a big dip in my life was when I stopped connecting. When I say stop connecting, I became a bit more selfish and became more money focused, and that sort of success that I started to chase in a way. And it's very interesting in my experience how that led to a divorce, that led to, you know, I wouldn't say almost broke, but I did lose a lot of money. I invested in the wrong businesses. I sort of was out of alignment. When I made, I would say between unconsciously and consciously, the decision to, you know what, I don't care too much about you anymore in terms of other people. I just want to achieve my things, following certain role models that then I realized, wow, maybe I could have done differently.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, you know, and I think we talked in one of our recent podcasts, is sort of balancing that purpose with, you know, what you're doing in business. So, yeah, that's really important. And I think, you know, it is important, you know, especially if you're sort of really effective at connecting and sort of new ideas and that collaboration, you know, the money success should, you know, hopefully follow. But, you know, it's interesting you say about, you know, when you were going solely sort of prioritizing the sort of money and investment, that actually that was when things went the other way. So you know, and you're, you know, now, and I know how you work, you're often looking for sort of people doing interesting things and, you know, ideas for collaboration, and, you know, we're often throwing around different ideas and, you know, people that we've met as well, and, you know, how they might be involved or, you know, be a guest on the show. So what would you say, and I know you sort of like keeping fit and you've done races and everything, what would you say is are your success habits?
You want me to share the ones I should be saying? Because then I would go wake up early every day, eat loads of greens, read 200 books every month, exercise, don't drink alcohol, love your parents.
No, share the ones you actually do that work for you.
I personally, with all my, you know, the mistakes I make on a regular basis and my failures and everything else, I like to be as humble as possible. It's one of the things I work on a daily basis, and work on focusing on others more than on myself. Not to say that I don't take care of myself. I've got that very clear. I have to be healthy. I have to be in good shape. My mind has to be well nurtured in different ways for me to be able to do what I do. But it's focusing on others, going back to being respectful, loving really the people around me. When I wake up in the morning, I don't do it often. I want to do it more. It's just, you know, appreciating that I've got a wife that cares for me, that I got my family, that, you know, we're healthy. It's that sort of mindset in which, you know, I like to encourage. Apart from, of course, exercising every now and then, eating as good as I can. But hey, you know, there are many days in which I just eat my chocolates because I love them. So it's that sweet spot. What I found is whenever I decided to follow this routine, lose weight, be fit, you know, read so many books, there was so much tension that I felt like I was going to break. So now I've got a bit of a belly. I look at it and it's just, well, there you are. But then I've got, you know, my heart is full, my mind is rich. And then, okay, so I make it that compromise, that's conscious. I'm okay with it. And it's not a super big belly, by the way, it's just that little bit in there. So
It's a
those are my
podcast
main.
belly.
It is the podcast belly. That's why I tend to speak standing up. So, when I feel it, it's just kind of not there. So it feels good.
I'll have to try that one. Yeah, and I think, it's really important. It's all about balance. It's no good, like you said, being super restrictive and strict in your lifestyle if it doesn't actually, relax you and sort of lead to anything positive. So, yeah, I think, a nice mix of exercise and chocolate, and having a bit of a drink every now and again sounds perfect. So, looking back over your career and where you are today, if you could start it all over again, what would you do differently?
It is okay. I'm going to mention my granddad again. There are two ways to answer this question for me. One is to be where I am today, and I'm happy to be where I am today. Obviously, I would need everything that's happened in my life until this moment. So I wouldn't change a thing. I would do it the same way to be where I am today, which is fantastic, by the way. I'm in a position in which I feel like there are no limits to what I can do.
Yeah.
And there is the second version of it, in which I think about my granddad told me about reading and developing a super memory, which eventually I started working on last year only, and read more and improve your communication and everything else. And selfishly, I was thinking, yes, if I would have done that when I was 12, 13, I would have dated so many girls in those teenage years, because I wasn't very popular and I actually struggled a lot. So I'm thinking, if I would have done that, and maybe my success in business would be different today. So I guess I would have listened to the advice from my granddad and my parents more than I did. This is very selfish, just to date more girls and, boost my self-confidence.
If only you'd had the Antonio Banderas line then.
Exactly. If I would have had that back then, I don't know, I would have been, what do you call that? The cat with the boots, or
Yeah, Puss in Boots. Yeah.
Puss in Boots.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, and that's an interesting question. I often get sort of very different answers. And, one of the things I often hear from my guests is, would have trusted myself more. I would have left that job that I hated earlier. But I think, all of life's experiences and your career experiences sort of lead up to where you are today. And, like you talk about the time when, you were focusing on different things, you're focusing more on the sort of money or making that a priority, and actually that didn't serve you. So now that's led you to sort of where you are today and looking at your purpose and connection. So it's interesting. I'm sure there's things we talked in our last podcast with Toby McCartney about his failures and what he'd learned. And I put the same question to you, really. You've mentioned that sort of one where your focus was different, but what have you learned from your failures? Is there one that sort of really sticks in your mind that really helped you learn something positive out of it?
To be more humble and to give to other people. That is the message that it keeps resonating. It comes to mind every time I hear a similar question. Give more to others. And I would like to add, it's not just give more to others, but give more to the environment, to nature, to the planet. And I'm becoming more and more conscious about the fact that for businesses as well, that if we begin to focus on not just people and their well-being, but in the well-being of our planet, keeping that environment, nature, preserving it for future generations, that can only be very powerful for many of us to keep on coming and enjoying the ride. Because I don't really know what this is supposed to mean. My purpose, I decided to believe it was one thing, but I don't really know what what's my goal in life or my purpose real, So I decided to do that. And if I can contribute towards the environment so more people come and enjoy this, that's me done.
I think what you said about, if you can leave people just that little bit better in your sort of interaction with them, whether that's a sort of a speaking engagement or a one-on-one or, a networking event, then that's really positive. And, I speak to so many people that have sort of really moved through the corporate world and are now doing their own thing, running their own business. And most of them have created businesses that are having a positive impact on others, that they really want to focus on helping others to move up, or helping others to create their own dream. So, you know, it's interesting, you know, when we talk to all these entrepreneurs and business owners, you know, all their experiences massed together to produce this sort of great advice and support that they're providing to others.
I agree, Liz. There is this worldwide movement that it's happening and it's growing, and I think it is very powerful, even though so many people say that, oh yeah, there is another coach, for example. That's okay if they don't know what, you know, we're really up to. But the people that are doing this for a bigger purpose, we're having a greater impact. And I would encourage anybody, not just to become a coach, it's not what I mean, but to support others in whatever you do. And whatever you create, have it with a bigger purpose in mind. And then money and everything else will come. And I know it's kind of a cliche to say this, but I never needed money in my life to at least put food on my plate or pay the rent or things like that. And I know, and I trust the process. The more I continue to work, the more great things come my way. So, you know, it's working for me. Why wouldn't it work for others?
Yeah, and that sort of giving back piece is so important. I mean, one of the areas that I talk to people a lot about is sort of seeking out mentors. You know, and that's not necessarily, you know, paid coaches or mentors. It's, you know, ideally looking at people that are along that similar journey that you're aiming for, and perhaps only a little bit ahead. So maybe 18 months ahead of you, because they've recently been where you are. They know what works, they know what doesn't work for them. And, you know, perhaps trying to get a range of mentors, not just one, you know, to mean that you get a sort of range of experiences and support, and, you know, considering yourself about, you know, whether you'd benefit from, you know, taking on a mentor role yourself and being a mentor for someone else. So, you know, that's really important. And I know sort of informally, you know, we're all doing that on conversations, but sort of making that a bit more formalized.
Definitely. And since I started on this kind of what I like to call the new journey, the new me after all of, you know, what I mentioned before, I always have a mentor, paid mentors, trainers, coaches, and also the ones that I follow. And, you know, even books, internet can be very helpful as well if you're looking for certain things to learn from people, which I think is very important. And I like to see this as a bit of a stair, and you've got the different steps. So you are on step 3, as you well said. And if you want to get to 4, then, you know, if you go and look for a person that's already on step 4, it may take you less time and less energy to get to that point alone. Yeah. So I think it's definitely, look out for people that are achieving what you would like to achieve and connect with them.
And that's really relevant to my next question, actually, with all these sort of, you talked about research and books and sort of following mentors and, you know, coaches. But what would you say has been the best piece of advice you've received about sparking success, about being successful?
Again, you may hear this a lot, but follow your dreams. Follow what you really want to achieve. If you started with an idea in mind and you want to create that, see it materialize, become a reality, just hold on to them. It doesn't matter what the world tells you, whatever it is. And again, sometimes we like to compare ourselves with super successful people in terms of, you know, the money they have, the different businesses they run, how well known they are. But think about any success. I like to see success as well. When I see my progress, my evolution, yeah? So if I see today compared to a year ago, wow, I'm doing really well. And then I can think about what I want to be next year. So it's having that healthy competition with yourself as well, apart from looking out to learn from people. So going back to the advice, I think dream big. Hold on to your dreams until they happen. Don't let them go. Don't get you started. I mean, if you plant a seed because it's very purposeful and meaningful to you, and then you water it and water it and water it, and you don't see anything, but you keep on watering it, eventually that little plant is going to come out and eventually will turn into a tree. And, you know, the journey will be different for every one of us, but you keep on watering that plant and it will grow stronger roots and it will grow. And that's the beauty of life and creation. So yes, hold on to them. Don't let anything tell you that you cannot do it. If I, you know, 10 years ago, Liz, when my English was just kind of very okay-ish, do you think I would have dreamt of doing a TEDx? Maybe not at TEDx because I didn't know about it, but I wanted to speak in front of an audience, big audiences. I love the fact of doing it. And eventually I created that. So hold on to your dreams, whatever they are, if you want to call them dreams, goals, achievements.
Yeah, I love that. And, the amount of time I talk to my podcast guests and clients about, when they find that thing that they just love and, they just feel like it's their true calling. And you can see that in people. You can see it when they're talking about what they do, when they're helping other people, to achieve their dreams. So, I think that's really key, and not to sort of accept. That seems to be a theme that I see coming out a lot with, that advice that, perhaps what they would do differently if they were to start all over again. It's to sort of follow your dream earlier, don't put up with, situations that don't make you happy, either in your career or in your personal life. And really, follow that dream, that where you feel at home, where you feel like you're actually, you've met your calling and you're doing exactly what you should be doing at that precise moment. So, and not being scared, exactly what you said, of those failures or bumps in the road. They're not failures, they're learning points, and that's what you have to go through to get where we all are today. We've all had failures and bumps and highs and lows of careers and life. So yeah, exactly. I love that.
And I would like to quickly, because you mentioned the bumpy road, and again, being a bit fatalistic, that can be life sometimes. It's not all the time bumpy, but if it gets bumpy, you can decide to give up or to buy some proper shock absorbers. And you continue to drive on that bumpy road. And the shock absorbers, once, they get old and, they're off, they're done, then you buy a new pair. And, and that's how you continue. And those shock absorbers will even get better. So do something about it. That's a good metaphor for you guys to take away, or turn it into whatever you want.
Definitely embrace those ups and downs, because they're often when we've seen some amazing stuff come out of business in lockdown, innovation and people totally changing direction or creating new products, supporting different people. So, it shows that out of adversity, amazing things can happen. So, embrace those changes and, use them as inspiration.
Flexibility as well is also very important. Yeah. Be flexible. If you're failing, that's okay. Find ways in which you can tweak it and make it better. Whatever it is that you're doing. If you're applying for a job, keep on doing it. Change your CV until the person that's going to be looking at it looks like, wow, yeah.
Yeah. And that reminds me of the story we had in our last podcast, our other podcast, with Toby. And he was talking about testing out. He's got a company that uses recycled plastics to make road surfaces. And he said they were sending these sort of mix of recycled plastics to the lab to check if it was the right consistency and whether it would work. And they tried and kept getting failures. And they got to 843 times where they'd had failures. The product wasn't right. Most people would have given up after, maximum 10, but the fact that they just kept on trying, and it shows that persistency, can get there. So exactly what you were saying about watering your plant, and, it will eventually grow. So
definitely, it's just waking up. And that's why I said, follow your dreams, hold on to them, because when you wake up in the morning or at the end of the day, if you haven't achieved what you thought you would and things didn't go as planned, remember that. And remember everybody and all the people that you have around you to support you as well. And keep on going, because that's the only thing that's going to keep you focused. Otherwise, you just throw it away. And if it's not meaningful enough, then after a couple of attempts, that wasn't for me. And then, you come up with excuses and you give it up. And then how you do one thing, you do many, and that's your life.
Yeah, exactly. So persistency, flexibility, these are all key. So if people
shock absorbers
and shock absorbers,
the shock absorbers. Yeah.
So if people want to find out a bit more about what you do, where's the best place for them to go?
A very simple way is to type, if you go on Google and just Jose Ucar, and my website, Instagram, everything else will come up, my TEDx. If you want to be more specific, you can visit www.finding-excellence.com, which is all the training and coaching I do. And if not, social networks as well.
Yeah, Fantastic. Well, check them out. Check out Jose's TEDx. And also, if you love podcasts, once you've listened to this fantastic episode, you can head over to Spotify and find our co-hosted podcast that we record with special guests and a live interactive audience called Lockdown and Then What? So join us.
Exactly. Join us. And then what? And that's the whole thing. Once you finish listening to this, then what? What are you going to do with whatever you're taking away? And then if you listen to the other podcast and if you learn something new, I don't care. And I'm going to be blunt about this. I don't care when people come to me saying, yeah, I've read so many books and I'm reading books every day and I've attended so many training sessions and I've got all of these mentors. I don't care as long as you're doing something with it. If you're taking something and applying it right away, being willing to fail, to ridicule yourself, to people to tell you you're wrong and what you're doing is not right, that's when you begin to grow, applying that little bit you've learned.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much, Jose. It's been great to put you in the spotlight seat for a change.
Thank you so much, Liz. Thank you. It wasn't that bad, I have to say.
Oh,
You've been kind to me.
I'm a gentle host, I think.
Indeed.
And to the audience here today, join me for the next episode where I'll be joined by another amazing guest, Joanne Lockwood. She is a diversity and inclusion consultant, a transgender campaigner, a speaker and founder of See Change Happen. So I look forward to having a really good chat with her about diversity and inclusion, why that's so important. So, and if you feel like today has inspired you and you would really like to spark your own success and have a success conversation, then book a call in with me at sparksucceed.co.uk. We can chat about making that happen for you. So, Jose, thank you so much for joining us. And we will see you for the next Lockdown and Then What podcast.
Thank you so much, Liz. See you very soon.
Take care. Bye.